y'all? 11:11. Checking out some Jupiter tonight. It's 6:16 p.m. Eastern. Coming at you for another space stream. I see Astralis in the chat. What's going on? Hope you're having a great day. So yeah, just starting off here a little bit with some tunes. I actually rearranged all the tunes for tonight, so I have them a little bit more organized. And I also uploaded a few old ones as well for fun. I'll put up the labels on Jupiter and we'll wait for some of our space fam to show up. Tonight's show is called Body and Biofield, in reference to Eileen McCusick and the human biofield, as well as Rupert Sheldrake, morphogenic field, and in general our resonant body outside our physical form. Well, it's also physical, but it's our layered electromagnetic shell around our body. I see Dagger Spells in the chat. Great to see you. Hello, beautiful. It's 11:11, baby. Hell yeah. It's also a nice Saturday. Long, like, slept really late today, and I'm a little bit sleepy, but feeling good, feeling great. Jupiter is, of course, rising so early, so I was actually a little bit prepared today. Got my stuff together so I could hop on quickly and get the max out of it tonight. So yeah, Body and Biofield, as well as the videos I was watching today about the observer effect and how, you know, quantum mechanics really has a problem with this, and letting go of the fact that you cannot take the experiment out of the ether. No matter what experiment you do, the human observer taking that measurement, or even the measurement tool taking that measurement, is a quantum observer. And so there is no getting rid of the observer effect. And that's it. There's no paradox. It's just a very simple concept, but I just listened to so many videos where they just won't let it go, and it actually makes sense as to why. Because if you actually, as a scientist, said, hey, my body emits radiation and affects every single measurement we take, then a ton of experiments would have to be rethought, and people's papers would be completely nullified, and actually not completely, but somewhat nullified, and had to be everyone would have to rethink pretty much everything in science if you really accepted the fact that the human body releases radiation and we create the field with entanglement. So it's a pretty big deal. It's very funny how, like, you'll find, if you just look this up on any quantum mechanics video or really any consciousness philosophy video. Was I watching the Kuhn one with all sorts of different people. It's called what is it, Closer to the Truth or something channel, and every single discussion about observer effect, it ends with this kind of circular thing. Well, we don't really know if you know, there's an observer, and can we really call it a thing? And it's a paradox. And I'm like, well, it's not really a paradox, right? If you know for a fact that inevitably the observer has a quantum effect on the experiment, then there's no paradox. Then it's answered. But then you have to act upon that and then we end up here where nobody wants to act on it. High vibes and deep sinks. I love it. All right, cool. Let's keep going here with the tunes and the chats. Let me know if you like the topic tonight. If you have any thoughts of your own on it, I'll keep going into some more detail as we get further along. I want to set up some labels here for Jupiter so we can tell what these Galilean moons are doing. And I was looking at the stream last night and really loving the detail we had on Jupiter, so maybe we'll get some of that tonight. Let me know if the audio and visuals sound and look good. Hit that 4K. Share the video if you'd like. And let's play some Dream Me right here. Some darker vibes, but fun. Dark and fun. Oh, gotta say hi to Kimmy. Nice to see you, Kimmy. It's been a while. Much love to you. Hope you're doing great. Glad to see you on the stream. And Ryan and NC, much love from NC. Welcome, welcome, friends. Hope you're having an awesome Saturday. a little Dream Me from a couple years ago. Want to hop in here and say a warm welcome to Andrew Johnson. Always much love and positive mental attitude from Scotland, my friend. Always great to see you, Andrew. I also see DJ Macro Son in the chat. Used to be easy, gotcha. Welcome, as always. And Red Rum, well, fancy seeing you here. Fancy seeing y'all here. Feeling a little goofy today, gotta say. Slept late and kind of rolled around. I was like, am I gonna stream? I guess I'm gonna stream though. Let's stream. Put in some laundry and stream. Woo, I see Genghis Khan in the chat. Welcome, finally. I saw your comment. I think you commented over the summer. Sorry I missed it. Great to see you, Jen, as always. Hope you've been well. Hope everybody's who I missed has had a great year. And yeah. Let's see. Rainbows and butterflies. Awesome to see you too. Hello, beautiful people. Yeah, it's so nice to see everybody. So yeah, happy Saturday. We got 11:11, a nice numerological instance of our conscious field. The title of the show tonight, as you can tell, is Body and Biofield. And I was in Biofield, of course, taken from Eileen McCusick's work. If you haven't checked out Eileen, please do. Eileen, McCusick. Love her. And she's finally getting traction. People are really tuning in. There's no way to say things without having puns in them. Tuning into her tuning fork stream. So, hell yeah, Eileen McCusick. And of course, yesterday I was talking about Rupert Sheldrake and his videos. The video that I mentioned that he had earlier on in the day about reproducibility and experimentation was taken down because of some issue. So keep your eyes peeled if you're interested in listening to that. It was a very good monologue by Rupert. And yeah, so what was I saying? So yeah, body and biofield, something I've talked about a lot, right? The human body is created, or by us, of course, along a Birkeland filament, and this bundle of nerves, our nervous system, outlines an electrical filamentary structure, and everything around that gets layered. Like if you took the cross-section of a limb of a tree, of an arm, of a fruit, you can see these layers, and you can see the relationship between hard and soft, like bone to flesh to skin to hair to energy. Whoa. Lots of stuff going on outside, that's cool. Yeah, so the relationship between like the bone and our flesh and skin and then hair and then air and then etheric plasma around our body. The same goes for an apple, when you have the relationship between the seeds of the apple and the flesh of the apple, the skin of the apple and the radiance of the apple, the glow or the aura or the energy field, or biofield, akashic record, electron cloud, potentiality field, dark matter. So the same, we're all, I don't want to say we're all talking about the same thing. I think everybody is talking about the same thing, but they don't necessarily want to admit it or know it yet. But I can tell, having watched all these different things, that pretty much dark matter is synonymous with ether. Dark matter filaments are synonymous with Birkeland currents or Birkeland filaments. Quantum entanglement is the same as resonance, and on and on and on. You can derive the rest for yourselves, but you'll see that it really is kind of looking the same way the human race, or all creatures basically, are apertures of the divine whole, of the greater whole. Same thing with all the theories. The theories are all pointing back to the same thing, but they're all apertures of the same theory. So we have not only fractal nature in terms of the geometry and nature of space, but also the nature of concepts and ideas and thinking is fractality. Recursive, nested fractality from the smallest scale to the largest scale. I should post a link to that. Actually, yeah, check back after. I've been trying to do chapters on each video. So a couple of videos ago I did all the chapters. I'll put the links in the description. Good call, Dagger. Right now I don't have it on hand, but if it's the Rupert one, I'll try and link to that closer to the truth with the, I think Robert Kuhn? I'm not really gonna link to mainstream channels, but definitely check out Rupert Sheldrake's channel, because his video yesterday where he that's the whole thing. The video where he was talking about reproducibility or irreproducibility of concepts, theories, and experiments. He actually mentions the book Somnium by Johannes Kepler, a book that I've read on the channel, I've referenced on the channel. It's a very esoteric, very fringe book that many people don't know about, but if you know what's in that book, you'll see that it's really a fascinating record from the 1600s in reference to, like, a quick summary of it is there's kind of this story of this adventure taking place, the mother and the child ends up going on this adventure, ends up hanging out with Tycho Brahe, another astronomer of the time, and then there's this other story where, using some sort of magical portal, people ball themselves up, kind of curl themselves up into this portal that takes them to the moon during a full eclipse. And things like that. It's a really fascinating book, fascinating little thing, and just to listen to Rupert Sheldrake talk about Somnium blew my mind. So definitely check out that video when it comes out. Let's see. Genghis Khan says, right on, some Sundays she does some live tunings, in reference to Eileen McCusick. Yeah, so if you really want to kind of get dialed in with her and her whole tuning fork and biofield and healing, breathing exercises, just really check that out. I've been talking about her for years, and it's awesome to see the flourishing right now. Okay. It got a little hot in here. My brain starts getting cooked when I have the headphones on and I start talking so much. But yeah, we got some Jupiter up here. Let me put the labels back and we'll talk a little bit about what we're seeing. I know some people just come here, or at least pop by. They're like, what are you talking about? The hell, I thought you were doing space. So let me move this up a little bit. We got Jupiter, of course, in the center, the big blob. And we can't see the detail on the surface of Jupiter for the obvious reasons that we're seeing the moons, and we have the aperture open right now. At the very bottom, we have the moon Callisto, then Europa hanging out, Io and Ganymede. Flanking up at the top right, beautiful, like, long alignment tonight. And yeah, I know what I want to talk about. I keep coming to the stream with not enough notes, but part of the discussion around the observer effect and what I wanted to talk about, which was this fact that there's this consensus, kind of like an unspoken or spoken consensus among the science community, that there was a certain point on Earth where sentience just didn't exist. Nothing was sentient. And I have to laugh. Today I found it just absolutely idiotic sounding, and I hate to say things like that because I don't mean to insult anyone. Everyone has their right to their opinion. But on that Closer to Truth channel, they were talking about the observer effect. They were also talking about this idea that, well, billions of years ago, when there were only oceans and just Earth, and mountains and rocks and stuff, there was no real sentience on Earth. And I thought, that's just so idiotic sounding, because how can life emerge from no life? It's just so silly to even say that out loud if you really consider what that is. Let me know what you think about that. To me, it just is starting to sound really silly. In addition, the other thing I realized, I realized it years ago, but it's kind of gelled. People are so impressed with, the universe is this old. Things are this so far away. It's so big. It's so far. And I'm like, why is that the most impressive thing about it? It's like going up to a person being like, it's a 15-year-old, it's a 30-year-old, and that should make the person. That somehow defines the person or makes that person special. And we've realized that really age has nothing to do with it, right? At any age you can be a prodigy or an idiot. and right, so what if the universe is a certain age, or so what if things existed at a certain period in time, and so what if the stars are 100 trillion light years away? If you don't understand the fundamental way your eyes work, or light and dark, sound, silence, the cycles, the fact that you can't have one without the other, right? Two sides of the same coin, polarities. This is the universe that we live in, but it's also the universe that we create, because we are the ultimate figurehead in this all, because everything is centered around each individual. Yet we all share this very similar experience with a little bit of change in it. The same way we can all look, 8 billion of us pretty much look exactly the same, but a little bit different. So I feel like if you're thinking about in terms of like these big questions, or important questions rather, not big, because that's the whole problem here, is like the important equals big, important equals old, or very young, the extremes. But in fact, it almost blocks us, or blocks science. I think it doesn't block me anymore, but it blocks people from considering other aspects or other questions about Earth. So for example, and I'll dial it back here for a second, but I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts here. I know I'm talking about a lot of different things, but let's say specifically about, do you believe that the Earth didn't have sentience or consciousness 3 billion, 5 billion years ago? Do we really believe there was an Earth at a certain point with oceans and trees and deserts and lightning bolts and clouds, that there was no actual life on Earth, and then there was? And I feel like we've been told this so many times, but we've also been told a lot of stupid stuff many, many times over, and those things happen to be completely wrong, or at least not more correct than another way of looking at it. So in my humble opinion, I feel like sentience has always been around because we come from sentience, right? So there was no point on Earth, in my opinion, where there was no life or sentience or consciousness on Earth. It always has been consciousness because it emerges from consciousness and light and resonance. So let me know what you think about that. Andrew Johnson says, hard sell trying to say that something came from nothing. Like, even I guess we're at a point where people are considering alternatives to the Big Bang, right? So we have this idea of multiple Big Bangs, or multiverses, or pre-Big Bang, or what happened seconds after the Big Bang, or so on and so forth. And there are two things. One, why are we so concerned what happened this long ago, When you really press a physicist, like, why do they need to know that? The rationale is this also presupposed rationale. It's a made-up rationale, especially when you compare it again to, like, how do the eyes work? How does consciousness work? How do you remember things? How does life and death work? And also, if you take that even further, how can we treat each other better? And how can we spread joy and love around the world? Real things that people care about. Nobody really cares about how old something actually is. We see these numbers and it's like, oh, great, this is a 20 trillion light years away, great. It's not impressive anymore. So let's see. Astralis says, Baba, need a thing not to have one. Need a thing not to have one. Well, if you're referencing the idea of contrast, yes, absolutely. I mean, like, nothing implies something, something implies nothing. Dark implies light, and vice versa. vice versa. That sounded just really weird. Meep. Okay, Red Rum says, is there a difference between instincts and sentience? Well, I would say that there definitely is a specific detail to that, right? So sentience, you can define it in a lot of different ways, but I think if we define it just in terms of like what we consider being alive or being conscious, there are a lot of ways of approaching it. You could say we'll never know, or it's a paradox and it's very complicated, or it's an illusion, or it's blah, blah, blah. Then there are people who say, like, don't question it. But if you really consider what we have in front of us, we have a projection of self. Nobody else is making our body, we are making our body. And obviously there's an observer effect because we affect our reality by releasing heat. The human body releases heat. And this is another thing. Again, I touch upon these topics, but and immediately fractalizes or becomes a dendritic filament of ideas. So does anyone know how the human body emits heat or why it emits heat? If you look that up, you'll find the word metabolism. And it'll say, yada, 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 human body metabolizes. And that's why we release heat. Our organs release heat. But there's no, why is there metabolism? And so if you keep going, you'll realize that, again, it's just like, how do the eyes work? Scientists don't really know why the human body actually generates heat. You'll find more debunking the Matrix videos about that than you'll actually see science videos on why does the human body actually radiate at all. And the reason we radiate is because we're built along a bunch of electric glowing filaments, dark matter filaments, or Hans Christian Birkeland filaments, Birkeland currents, electric universe filaments. So like, we're a bundle of nerves. These nerves outline an electrical system, and that's why we are like a quantum vacuum. We are sucking in the energy of the universe and we're excreting it, and we are also it. So we're kind of a resonant system within the quantum system, but we're also the quantum system. So in the case that instincts and sentience, I'll get back to that, which is instinctually, there's memory in your field and in the global field and in the tiny field. And so instincts are you using the field to do something. So it's kind of a reactive, I want to say the way we interpret instinctual behavior is a reactive state of being. And I think, what do you say? Instinct and sentience. Sentience is the state of being aware of the field. So it's a resonant state of quantum entanglement with self and other, self and global field, self and quantum field. That's the distinction, I think. So instincts, reactionary, using the field to do something. Sentience, the state of being in the field and resonating with it. Boom, boom, boom. I see, excuse me here, let me take a deep breath. Like I told y'all, I have a bit of congestion, so I'm not breathing enough through my nose, and I end up breathing really heavily into this mic, so forgive me. I do want to say hi to Mr. One-to-One. Loved your comment. I got you live. Much love. Welcome. I see Gerald Frank. What's going on? Welcome. Nice to see you. It says, time is a human construct, doesn't really exist. Well, I want to get back to that because time is both a human construct, but our world and our universe and the field is also a human construct. And so saying that time is a human construct in this way that says, it's not that important, it's just a human construct, to me seems like a phrase, the way you're approaching it. But you could say, wow, it's a human construct, that's profound, right? So it's just perspective here. It doesn't really exist, or it really does exist. It just depends on your frame of reference. Excuse me. So let's see. I saw a comment about fish. So fish aren't really sentient. But let's take bacteria or monocelled organisms, right? Or a baby developing in a womb. Is that sentient, right? Is a cow sentient? Is your AI sentient? Is I don't know, a flame on a candle, is that sentient? Or an apple? And it really depends on what you define that as. So for me, sentience, sensing stuff, is a resonant behavior between self and field. Point instance and cloud around it. So an atom nucleus and a shell, or a human and their field, or an apple seed and the flesh, or the earth and the magnetic fields around Earth. Just because you don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. So I think sentience is resonance with the field. So of course fish are sentient. That's how I think about it. Pretty much every object, the quantum state is sentience. We wouldn't have anything if there weren't this interplay between self and field, or point and cloud. Let's see. Fish are fairly sentient, or so I've found. Astralis says, yeah, all that eye and seeing stuff you've been saying really does line up and sound like how Don Juan teaches it. Yeah, I feel like this, I think, Don Juan, right, you're referencing, who's the author? There's a famous author, right? It'll come to me. Or, somebody's going to tell me in the chat, I'm sure. Castaneda, right? Carlos Castaneda. So, yeah, I think there's many references to field the fact that there's a consciousness field, and that the natives and the tribes and our ancestors were very aware of the field. However, I think we live in one of the most interesting generations where we can actually zoom in to these electron scale visuals and really see that the further you zoom in, the more detail you find. And now with James Webb, and there's also this crazy new ESA telescope called Euclid, where you can zoom in all the way into space, and it just goes on forever, or seemingly forever, right? So there's a gradiated limit. But to us, all the way down, all the way up, scalarly fractal, recursive, right? So giant space structures look like your nerves, look like a river tributary, look like a tiny molecular structure. There's just no way of getting away from that. So, all right, little break here, so I can go take some deep breaths myself. Circular breathing. Let me know if you want me to hit some tuning forks. I actually have a set of Eileen's tuning forks that I use, but I know not everybody loves that through a tiny microphone on their phone. Let's zoom into Jupiter too so we can see some detail, and also let me know if you need some labels here, again, tell you what the moons are. So last thing I'll say about sentience, are we not looking at this planet, Jupiter, this giant planet, or this tiny planet, whatever way you want to look at it right now? Jupiter is definitely aware of Callisto, Ganymede, Io, and Europa, and its other moons, right? It's definitely aware because it's exerting control over these moons. And these moons are absolutely aware of Jupiter because it's exerting its control. So the interplay between planets and moons in and of itself is enough to see visually sentience at large in space right in front of us. Same thing with the moon and its field, same thing with the sun and its planets, same thing with us and our circle of people, but also our circle of bacteria and hair and so on and so forth, and dust, our field of dust. Okay, let's do some tunes. It's called Feel For You. I'll be back in a couple. in here for a sec. A little bit of syncopated television. Love all the great comments, everyone. Just want to hop in and say hi to Ellie Wynn. Hope you're feeling great tonight, or doing okay tonight. Always lovely to see you. I see Derry A. Darany. It's a cool name. Welcome. And let's see, I had a couple of comments here I want to reply to because I think it's right in line with what I was talking about earlier. So I think, let's see, Mr. 1-to-1 says, I think Jupiter is self-illuminating at the distance reported. I don't see how it reflects sunlight. That makes no sense to me. So I think it's important to note that everything is not only reflecting, but radiating, right? So we as humans or planets are radiating energy, frequency, resonance in the etheric field. So the sun is radiating, and Jupiter is radiating, and the coalescence or the quantum entanglement between them is what we perceive as this glowing or reflecting light. So there are other factors here, of course. They talk about Jupiter being a brown dwarf, not really a star, but not really a planet. This is a whole other idea. If we talk about stellar metamorphosis or planet creation, either through accretion or through being cooked at the center of a star, we could think that Jupiter is not only a sentient body, it's not exactly human, of course, but it thinks it's human, I think. And the reason we know that things are sentient, I'll give you an example, like if apples weren't aware of their own field or their own boundaries, apples would grow into one another. Things would clip like they do in 3D. If you ever worked in 3D, or you see like, the old 3D movies where like a hand would go through a table. The table is sentient enough to not clip our hand, and our hand is sentient enough to not clip the table. This idea of field is sentience. Awareness of field and reaction to field is therefore sentience. In the sense that I'm talking about it. Let's see. Let's see. Darren, not sure what you're talking about. Oop, wrong account. Not sure. Let's see. There was another comment I wanted to respond to, sorry. So Red Rum said, okay, so Gerald Frank says, there's artificial time and natural time. Check out the law of natural time for a lot more. So I'm happy to talk about that, but in the sense that what we perceive as time intervallically, so we perceive the frames of our lives, these either monopole moment, these dipole moments where we interact with the field and the field resonates to us, and these moments, these little, what you would call the frame of reference of now, we store in the field and we observe as the past, and every moment that we create, we're creating the current now. And you could argue that the field is the future attracting us towards it. So we interact with the field in real time, the future, create the current moment that we observe, store it into the field, and then we can retrieve it from our field. And I think the distance between those intervals that we have created as a construct, or whether it's inherent to the universe, this is what we think of as time. And at every scale, I'll give you an example. So you look at a little fly and you're like, oh, that fly lives a day. Like, that's just so stupid. What would anything live a day? It's so negligible. But to the fly, that must seem like a lifetime at its scale. So for us, 70 odd years is a lifetime. For a planet, on and on and on. So that's the idea there. Rainbows and Butterflies says, plants have awareness and interact with the field. Of course, if you speed up plant life, you'll see that not only are they along filamentary roots, but they have a very defined movement pattern. They're completely aware of where the sunlight is coming from that they need the most, and on and on. Okay. Mr. Wonder One says, TakeBackSpace, I've watched most of your videos over the years, never stopped. That 9-month break felt like forever. Yeah, it did. I mean, but part of the show, like I've mentioned on the streams before, but I never really wanted to do the whole YouTube thing. But this sharing this information, and of course the duty I feel of sharing this visual, of course, too, of space is partially why I wanted to do this show. And in order for me to stay sane, in so many words, I have to take breaks from time to time. I have to let it be what it is. Otherwise, it takes over my whole life. But I do appreciate you saying that. It did feel like a long time, and I'm sorry if I worried anyone. I know that y'all love to hang out here, and so do I, of course. Ellie says, thanks, glad to see you. Glad to see you. Feeling good, eating homemade pumpkin roll, cream cheese, feeling yum, making coffee. All this sounds delicious. I kind of need that, too. I kind of want to make some coffee now. Ryan says, listening while working. Awesome, awesome. Buried axe blade. I just noticed you in there. Well, double thumbs if I arrive on... Oh, that's you. Okay, great. Nice to see you, buried axe blade. Anything else here? Oh gosh, I see Tammy in the chat. Welcome, welcome, Tammy. Long, long time. Oh, gee, Tammy. Hope everything's been well with you. And did I miss anyone else? Yeah, so what do you think about this idea of sentience, right? Like an apple on a tree, it would clip into the next apple if it didn't know its own boundary. And a tree wouldn't know where to place its branches if it didn't know boundaries. So absolutely everything except for certain people don't know boundaries. No, I'm just kidding. But like, of course, I think nature, 95% of nature is completely aware of its boundaries, and 5% of nature is not aware of its boundaries in a perfect harmony. And the same goes for pretty much everything. We have this idea of the stars that we see in the sky versus the emptiness of space, the vast emptiness. And I was listening to this really wonderful Alan Watts talk that I don't think anyone's actually heard, because it's part of that archive that I bought and downloaded, and I don't think I've ever heard it on YouTube. But he talks very distinctly about kind of how if you have a white wall and you draw a black circle, the white becomes the negligible, and that black circle in the middle becomes the thing. And then vice versa. If you have a black wall and a white spot in the middle of it, you know, the black becomes the negligible thing, and that white spot becomes the thing that you're focused on. And this is how we are with our spotlight world that we look at through our beautifully perfect geometric eyeballs that we create. All right, that's some thoughts. Oh yeah, Red Rum says, my comment regarding having a gravity and sentience is different. I'm not sure how you're relating those two things, but I will say that this idea of gravity, so gravity can't exist by itself, right? It's gravity, and depending on how you look at it, if you think gravity pulls you down or attracts you, there's expanding universe and gravity. So there's the push and pull. There's always kind of the inflation and the compression at the same time. And that's the equilibrium. This is the fine tuning, or the fine structure constant, or the Goldilocks zone for Earth or for life. This idea that things arise when perfect conditions arise. But I will say that that if you take these two things separately, you can, but you can also link them if we take it this way. So what is gravity, right? It's weight, it's mass, what is the root of gravity? You have this push and pull, whatever way you look at it. Gravity's either attracting us towards the center of something, or it's pushing us away. And I think that whether you want to look at it that way or not, I think it's a two-sided thing. If gravity exists, then another force that creates an equilibrium between it and gravity exists. And this can be represented in a lot of different ways. If you were talking to Ken Wheeler, he would probably tell you it's centrifugal divergence and centripetal divergence and centripetal convergence and centrifugal divergence. So a double helix, a coaxial circuit, two spins working against each other. If you think about your eye, you're sending out a signal, but you're also receiving a signal through this conical spiral wavefront motion. But if you look at the same thing, the energy coming in through the top of your skull into the ground, that's forked into the ground, that's earthed, we look like the Laniakea, which is the local supercluster of our universe, looks like our nervous system, looks like river tributaries. There's nothing that is not us. That's really where we get to. Fiber Oats says density disequilibrium. Gas go down, boom, boom. So actually, interestingly, that makes me think of something, which is the fact that the first time I heard this idea of neg entropy, or negative entropy, I heard it via Dan Winter. Is it Dan Winters? Dan Winter. And let me double check that so I don't say it wrong. It is Dan Winter. Okay, so Dan Winter talks about neg entropy, which is collapsing of the ether into particles. And so if you're looking at something and something is radiating at you, the interplay between them creates a point, and that point is neg-entropic. So the opposite of entropy, which is chaos. So neg-entropy is actually structure. It's the ba from the ka, it's the 5 into the 6, or the 6 into the hex into the penta into the hexa, and there are these structures that emerge from the ether collapsing onto this fundamental geometry, but it itself becomes the object and the subject at once. I know that sounds complicated, but the idea really is that you can't have one without the other in the most simplistic way. Does gas have mass? It really depends. If you want to do wordplay, it does. It probably does. I mean, depending on how you want to talk about mass. Is mass like heaviness or weight? Or is mass spin in relation to the quantum vacuum? There are a lot of different ways of approaching mass from our fundamental physics academic perspective, and I'm not shrugging it off. I'm just saying that if you really pressed physicists to define mass, then you'd get a lot of different answers. The way I think about it is that spin, vortexial spin in the etheric plasma, creates what we perceive as weight or gravity, also time and matter. Matter is all these properties that we think of as completely disparate are actually emergent properties of the whole. But since we create ourselves and we are the whole, there's a reason for all of it. There's no paradox here. There's no humans are one thing, and then all these factors are another thing. We are all those things by virtue of existing. I don't know if gravity doesn't exist. I think there's an attractive and repulsive force, and you could call it gravity or expansion or anything you want, or magnetism. Tetrapodum, good to see you. Greetings. Welcome, welcome. Just talking here, all good. I love all the great comments. I see Auntie Queenie. Great to see you, Auntie Queenie. Thanks for the lovely comment you left me. And everybody left me some cool comments. Tammy says, love Alan Watts. Heck yeah. I recommend anyone who has, spare scratch to go and download the entire archive from the Alan Watts Foundation, because there are shows that I'm sure people haven't heard before, and especially me, I've heard so many of the shows, and this one today blew my mind. Like, it was so articulate, and I just wanted to share it with everybody. But I'm talking about these same ideas here. Can't have one without the other. The biggest mystery, the biggest joke we played on ourselves is that we pretend that nothing is nothing, but nothing is something. The space around the object is fundamental to the object. So the blackness around Jupiter right now is fundamental to Jupiter, fundamental for us as observers within the etheric plasma, made of the etheric plasma. In order to resonate with Jupiter, we need the background. You wouldn't see one another, especially, I know people take DMT, and the boundaries between self and field disintegrate. But the boundaries that we see between us and table and Apple and computer and chat room right now, these are vibrational moving fields, moving real-time co-creation of self and field. you know, of course it would come into this idea that maybe you think about the solipsistic way of thinking that no one else is real except the self, but that doesn't matter really, right? Jerry Cthulhu, what's happening? Long time. Old viewer, huh? Happy November to you. Happy 11/11 to y'all. And of course, it's a great weekend, nice warm weekend here in the South. Let's see. Carl Jung. Yeah, I mean, it's great to listen to Alan Watts talk about Jung. I feel like it's something I mentioned before, but this idea that we can't, I know that you're not saying that, but it would be great to progress in science, right? I think this constant referencing of people from 200 years ago, or even when I reference Alan Watts, like, he was limited by what he was able to absorb at the time. And now we're of an age where we can find all of his work in relation to Rupert's work, in relation to Eileen's work. And that's where I feel the confluence of these theories can be broached in one place. So in one place right here with 15, 20 people, we can talk about all the theories all coming together to create one much more coherent, much more cohesive concept. Or at least that's how I think about it. What else? Genghis Khan says, how about, does information have weight and mass? Of course. Very tiny amounts of weight and mass, but every idea is its own little universe. Even the idea is sentient. And I know that sounds like a stretch for people, but let's talk about, again, sentience is simply point and field. Point resonates with field, figures out where it is, field returns an informational packet, a concept, a vibration, to the point. The point says, wow, I know what that is, and it saves it into the field. And as it saves it into the field, it both can retrieve information and store information. So point and field, this interplay between it, whether you call it quantum entanglement or resonance, harmonic resonance, discoherence, coherence, it really doesn't matter, but point and cloud. So self and biofield, apple and field, tree and field, earth and magnetic field, universe and radiance. This is fractally consistent in every type of science. And actually, let me do this because I figured out how to get paint working. And so let's scribble. You know, want me to scribble a little bit on top of Jupiter? Let's see if that works. Give me a second. Yeah, so, you know, big ideas. We even say it. Big ideas, small ideas, ideas that are in passing, ideas that people stick to and hold to, concepts. What's a concept? What's history? These ideas that keep getting resonated with, and they grow and they grow and they take, we even say it, they take on a life of their own. A ton of our language already describes the actual thing, but because it's very important for most of the human race to be blind, to be the flesh of the apple, that pretty much everything naturally occurs to keep everybody in the dark. And it must be so. This is the thing, it must be 90% darkness to the 1% or whatever, 10% brightness, the audience to the performer, the seeds to the flesh of the apple, the earth to its fields, the human body to the human biofield. The interplay of that relational, that ratio of 90 to 10, 80 to 20, 99 to 1, this plays out throughout all geometry and all states at every scale. And it's fundamental. It's not something like, it's not a paradox. It is the thing. Much love, Copper Chops. Great to see you. Welcome. OGist. One of the OGist. Ideas that carry weight. Exactly, Auntie Queenie, right? That's, we already talk about it in that way. Anyway, think about your field, right? When somebody enters a room, oh, I felt that person walk into the room. Oh, or even when Rupert Sheldrake talks about it, if I can remember, it's called scopisthesia, when you can sense if somebody's looking at you and from what direction. Of course, people don't like that, but it's because it's hard to prove. You have to take somebody's word for it. But yeah, things like that, where of course your field comes into play. And so every single object in the universe has its own field because you see it. It's proof because it exists. It's almost partially, again, why at the top of the show when I said that scientists are unwilling to approach this observer effect idea and say, hey, it's not a paradox, it's actually fundamental to all things that you cannot take the observer or the experimental or consciousness, whatever, out of the experiment. At some point or another, a scientist or a robot is going to take a measurement, and the measuring device itself is a quantum device, is a quantum system. What it's measuring is a quantum system, and the person taking the measurement from the measuring device is a quantum system. There's absolutely no paradox, and there's absolutely no reason to keep going with this fallacy that like someday, okay, we'll be able to completely measure a little sodium lithium laser beam in complete separation from a human observer. Like, it'll never happen, because the fact is at some point somebody's going to talk about the results of the experiment, and therefore it has been measured by a quantum system, aka consciousness, aka sentience. You cannot extract experimenter from experiment. No paradox needed. I mean, it's a big statement, but I've just never heard anyone say it definitely. So there it is. Z-Proxy, woot, what's happening, old friend? Long time. I hope you and the family are doing well. Let's see. Boxes and boxes, maybe some strut coming up, so I can take a deep breath here. Sorry, I'm reading some of these comments. There are a lot of great comments tonight. I love it. Also, I zoomed in here to Jupiter. Let's not forget Jupe's concentric electromagnetic cylinders snapped off into a spherical form, right? But there's, oh, I said I was going to draw, so let me draw. Where's my paint program? So let me know if you see this okay. There we go, scribble time. So, right, we got the poles of Jupiter. Pole, and what's really happening is something more like this. This is our hypotrochoid, or our hourglass shape, but it's really a cylinder that has been pinched. Why has it been pinched? Because you have a coaxial, these are very simplistic, abstracted shapes, but it's a double helix. And what happens at these little junctures right here called Z-pinches, or nodes, or planets, or atoms, or positrons, protons, the human heart, the human head, planets, like units, right? Conscious units start pulling in these plasma sheaths, right? These plasma sheaths are not only cylinders, right? These cylinders are nested cylinders. One's going that way, and one's going that way. Why are they doing so? And you can even see it manifest here, and you'll see there are different rotational rates of Jupiter's bands. When you listen to Jupiter scientists, they will never tell you the reason this happens. I don't think they really have any idea why it happens. So what happens as well is that you have, let me just erase some of this. So cylinders, nested cylinders, vortexial, right? Here's your Fibonacci spiral. Whoa, Fibonacci, right? This is not separate from the rest of the universe, right? This is just its own particular structure. This is your field, right? Of course, it stretches out so much because it encompasses the moons, right? That's where the moons exist. Like the hourglass, our glass, exactly. We even say that about people, you know, she has an hourglass figure. But we ourselves are time. We are time. Like, I'll go on a little bit further here. So there are concepts here that I'm just going to throw out. Stop me. if you want me to talk about it a bit more, but this idea of a black hole, like what is a black hole and why are people so fascinated with it? It's the same reason that we have oral fixation or anal retentiveness, is because the holes in this universe, I hope this is not, I know it's going to make everybody chuckle, but I'm going to try and be serious about it for a second here. So the idea here is that the top of this funnel and the bottom of this funnel, the same, these shapes are the black and white hole. Same thing, humans have a black hole and a white hole. We ourselves are the same exact structure of the universe. So we intake information, we breathe in, and we also take in food and destroy it, absolutely destroy it, with our event horizon mouth, right? And then we reinterpolate all the information in this data that we've chomped up and excrete it back into the universe, and this goes back into the system. And not only do we do that as humans, but every creature and every tiny Planck atomic structure is a quantum vacuum, basically sucking in ether and excreting ether, but it's also a two-way system, right? We speak, we breathe out, right? All these things. So this is why it's fundamental and how you can prove it, right? Because, of course, things are not isolated. Even when you look into the night sky, you can see the interconnectivity of the filaments connecting the networks. And even if you completely subscribe only to mainstream science or mainstream cosmology, they openly admit that dark matter has filaments, the universe has inherent structure, that things are long filaments. They just don't say electricity, and they say ropes, magnetic ropes instead of filaments, which is just kind of another reason that the system tries to tries to keep everybody in the dark, so to speak, because the system itself must do this by nature. It's not naughty by nature. So let me unspiral this for a moment. Wait, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to get back to this. Sorry, I'm not reading the chat, y'all, right now. I'm just trying to scribble a bit. And I'll get back to the chat in a second. Gosh, these trucks are loud. Also, let me know if I'm speaking too loud, breathing too heavily. I don't want this to be one of those things where y'all are annoyed with the audio, but you don't want to stop me. So I'll try and speak a little bit further away. So yeah, so this hypotrochoid, shout out Ken Wheeler, Theoria apophysis. But then what's the counter space to a hypotrochoid is a torus. So this right here, the hourglass shape, is the center or outlines the counter space of a toroidal shape. The infinity sign, your eye sockets, the shape of a butterfly, the shape of Mare Serenitatis and Tranquillitatis on the moon, the shape of the Cat's Eye Nebula. This shape in nature emanates from this structure. And this structure is fundamental throughout all sizes and all scales. And the reason it's like that is the reason that we can all be 8 billion, again, however many billion people you think are on Earth, can all basically look exactly the same, but not really. Because everything has this inherent structure vibrating ever so slightly with its own resonance. So you have complete blueprint for all things, and then you have a little bit of that little salt thrown into the stew to kind of spice it up a little bit. And just a tiny variance makes a big difference. So in addition to that, you could say, well, what was the original vibration, right? Okay, I agree, everything is related, and there is order to the system. You get into this mainstream paradox again, where they're like, well, where's the Godhead? Who started the original thing? The prime mover, the original sin, the original vibration, the fall of man. I want to talk about the fall of man for a second, but what is that prime mover? And I would say we don't know 100%, but if you just ask the question before you postulate, before you ask that other question, you say, well, or you do that right after. You say, well, who's the prime mover? And you say, well, who makes the body? Who makes our eyes? Who stores information in the field? Who retrieves the field? Who can make life and take life and has the big experience? The self. And therefore, the prime mover, before you say, we have no idea, the prime mover seems to be us. We seem to be the prime mover. And by we, I mean the I, or I mean each and every one of the I's of you. Each of you, or me, is the self observing the entire self. And therefore, the prime mover is the self. Before it becomes a paradox and before it becomes unanswerable, life without both sides of life is not life at all. I'm taking that from Alan Watts, right? So like the way you know that is because without the space around Jupiter, there is no Jupiter. You can't see Jupiter. Same way if we didn't have a field, no us. So we are the prime mover. We create the field and the self. We're all projections of the self with a little bit of variance in it. So, yeah. No, Fiber Oats here. So let me answer some of these comments here. I'm going to mute the paint. But yeah, I'm glad that my scribbleology is working. But Fiber Oats is ragging on some of this this gas stuff. So let's see. Fiber Oats says, back to gas pressure. The second law of thermodynamics was a hard blue pill for me to swallow as well. What's containing the gas? Other gas. Okay, so I'm not saying I understand or I know for sure why we created life. But I think a reasonable guess is the original mover, us, as the great unified field of consciousness as we know it, wanted to have an experience, or is having an experience, and the reason you have the experience is to have the experience. You could argue, well, there's no purpose, then why? But is there a purpose to dancing or playing a song besides experiencing the song or experiencing the dance? Again, to quote Alan Watts, the fastest dancers are not the ones who win. The best dancers, that you appreciate their dance, is what's important. And so life, the reason for life, the reason we created life, or we create our own life, is the reason we are alive. So the purpose of life is to have the experience of life. And to have the experience of life as an aperture of the Godhead, we had to set parameters in place for us to create all the playable characters, the theater, the broad cast of people. I think that's what it really is. We are a broadcast frequency of resonance of self. There is nobody and no thing, but doesn't mean that those no things and no people are unimportant. They're the most important thing. The second law, these ideas of I'm gonna fight on, or like take fundamental laws to task, is not something I really want to do. Not because I couldn't research it and figure out a way to talk about it, but I would say that the concept of laws, of fixed rulers for this universe, is missing the bigger picture, which is things are waves, then you take a measurement and they're fixed. So even the law itself is variable. The speed of light is variable, speed of consciousness and thought is variable. You could argue that it's even expanding and contracting constantly. The idea of oscillation means there are no fixed fundamental laws. So I know that that sounds like a way of avoiding it, but it is a way of avoiding it. No, you must have containment in order for there to be pressure. Again, who says? What you have is the universe. That's the real, so to speak. And then you have scientists and structures within that universe trying to define it. So you're telling me that the definition within the system of the system reaches paradoxical levels, but I'm saying that because the system exists itself, you don't need to ask these fundamental questions, or you don't need to stick to these fundamental principles. I'm not saying that the second law of thermodynamics doesn't work. I'm saying that there are certain aspects of fundamental laws that are not even like the concept of the fact that they are variables not even entertained. So I'll stay there because I don't want to argue necessarily about like specific things like that, because we could say that you could always tell me that, well, we use a speed of light measurement in order to do these things and therefore it's a real thing and it's a fundamental law. And I could say, okay, yeah, that is true. And I could say the same thing about, again, I didn't say rumor at all. I'm saying it's an observable phenomenon, but gas is not outside of the fundamental ether. The ether contains gas and us, and itself is, as far as we know, infinite and a continuum from top to bottom, so it cycles. So the fact is, gas, whatever particle you're talking about, if you're talking about noble gas, you're talking about heavy gases, you're talking about any elemental particles, from hydrogen to plutonium to elements that we've never discovered, are basically manifestations along the vibrational axis of this fundamental geometry. I'll point to this channel called The Dyslexic Artist Take on the Theory of Time, and he's actually growing his channel. I referenced him years ago, but he has this wonderful concept about how the periodic table of elements emerges along a Fibonacci spiral based on energetic frequency, right? It's all the same energetic stuff that emerges into all the elements. So gases are not outside of that, and gases are not their own, whether or not they have properties that I'm not arguing with, I still feel like they're like talking about anything within the fundamental structure. Okay, there are laws that work one way. Well, fiber oats, I guess you have a really, I guess, what was the point that you're trying to make? What's ether? What's my observable phenomenon? Well, I would say that instead of reaching paradoxes, which is these can never be answered, I'm trying to answer some things here in a decisive way, because I don't really care about writing papers or getting peer reviewed or having a successful YouTube channel or getting anyone to agree with me. I just like sharing ideas and putting things together. And it seems to me that people are hung up on certain principles. And if that's the hang up that you want to be on, I can't stop you. So, I mean, you could say that you won the argument or not. It really doesn't matter to me. What matters is that it seems like we're talking about two different things. You're trying to tell me, why does this thing exist and how do you define this? And you're talking about things you don't understand. And I'm trying to say that that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to say that this whole universe, the idea of sentience and consciousness, supersedes, is above the stuff that you're talking about. I'm not trying to put you down. I just think it's a larger macro concept. Ether can be talked about as the field, right? The Akashic record. It could be talked about as air. It could be talked about as nothingness, counter space, dark matter, anything you want to call it. But it's what is around your body. Nothingness, emptiness. Yeah. So let's see. Tetrapodum says, I think it's always about the exchange of thought without finishing with an absolute judgment. Well, that's the thing. I think it's the opposite. For me and this particular channel, it's not about reaching indecisiveness. It's actually about reaching a point of decisiveness and being willing to be wrong or willing to change my mind. I think the biggest problem with science is that nobody wants to be decisive about anything. So we have complete paradoxes up and down. Go listen to other videos. At least I'm trying to come up with something that makes sense to me. Okay. Mr. One-to-One, there doesn't need to be a big definitive answer. This is an open chat. We're free thinking awake people. Totally. Like, look, Fiber Oats has their thoughts and I have my thoughts, so it's totally cool. Breaking out the popcorn, that's hilarious. Let's see. I love it. I love a good discussion, good debate. Again, you could say that you could keep going and, get me into a corner and trying to hold me down to this, but, I'm going to keep going here with the show and the vibes. I don't want to get stuck on one particular topic necessarily. So Tetrapodum says, let's see if I missed stuff. Sheesh, this guy read 4 chapters of high school book, killing the vibe, bro. Oh my God. All right, I'm going to switch it up here. That was fun. I always love a good, hearty discussion. So what I'd like to do, what was I doing? I was scribbling. It's probably time for me to take a break. I'm getting dry mouth here. Let me go get a drink, play some tunes, play some old stuff here. Formidable opponent for the occasion. Again, Fiber Oats, like a lot of respect. No, I hope was not like misconstrued as any type of sarcasm, cynicism, or bad vibes. So high vibes all the way.
Left fixing the phone, mixing your liquids, now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, the near's calling. A souvenir, a soon's rescue. Left fixing the phone, mixing your liquids, now you're left for dead. Just pay your debts. Float, the near's calling. A souvenir, a soon's rescue.
Classic one, Formidable Opponent. I haven't heard this one in a while either, so thanks for all the comments. I just want to reiterate, of course, there are no bad vibes here at all. Sometimes the discussion gets a little bit intense, right? So I just went along with it. Vibra Oats, you're free to feel any way you want. Like, I understand you're not trying to make anyone mad. I'm definitely not mad. Y'all can tell. So Jupiter's rising really quickly. You can see a bit of the fuzz because it's hitting the top of the windowsill already, but I'm going to stick around a little while longer and talk some more for y'all because it's great to see all the old faces here. I think if I were to, I'm going to kill the conversation a little bit, Vibra Oats, on that particular topic. It's just not vibey right now, but I appreciate what you're saying, and I will maybe study it a little bit more so I sound a little more like I know what you're talking about. But still, my idea here, or the point of the show tonight, is self and other, human and biofield, so body and field, and how that works fractally across scales. The same thing, the idea of sentience, being on Earth before a certain point and after a certain point seems really silly to me. It seems like you're not going to get sentience without sentience. So Earth, I think, when it had oceans, Earth from the very get has been sentient and conscious in a form, in a way. And I think that's really important to note because then life makes sense. There is no point in my mind to see Earth or to imagine Earth as a place that isn't itself life, so it's very silly to think about that. So there was a point, billions of years ago on Earth where there was no life, and then all of a sudden there was thinking, conscious life. I think that really limits us. Again, could be completely wrong. So let's see. I wanted to make a note about Bandcamp. So I'm really sorry, y'all, who I have not hooked up some of the payment structures on the back end. I'm really considering maybe changing away from Bandcamp. So please, nobody pay anything on Bandcamp for the music. If you want to just listen to it, check out the Spotify albums, check out the old streams. Honestly, some of the streams have most of the songs. And hold on for further notice in terms of buying any new music. And I appreciate everyone who already has. Thank you. Migs, I see you in the chat. Hola, amigo. ¿Cómo está? Tetraprotum says, intense discussions are good at times. To wrestle the jimmies gets fresh wind in. It's true. Look, I need to be pressed on these topics as well. I love learning, and I'm not against having an intense conversation if the, of course, if no one gets mad, and I really definitely am not annoyed. I kind of love it. Unfortunately, that's the deal with Bandcamp lately. I've been listening to news about there might not be a Bandcamp, so not so sure about that. It was nice while it lasted, but stay tuned. I'm going to try and figure out maybe the best way here is to just put everything on SoundCloud and then make that available for all of y'all so you can just listen to any song you want at any point. Gracias, Miguel. Appreciate it. Let's see. I know Fiber Oats, you want to ask another question? Go ahead, really ask. Maybe I'll answer, maybe I won't take it too far this time, though. I love seeing Jupiter here. No Great Red Storm right now, but seeing the bands of Jupiter, understanding in so many different ways, like what I take from seeing Jupiter here, right, is so many different things. One, of course, Jupiter being aware and conscious. to Jupiter being this structure that could potentially turn into an Earth ultimately, could be baking an Earth at the center of it right now. That's a whole tangent I've talked about before, but the other thing is, why are there rings? Not rings, but there are rings, but why do you see these different layers to Jupiter? And that is because of the concentric filamentary cylinders of the Birkeland current that Jupiter was grown on. So Jupiter is a node along a root structure, and there's this invisible field around it. But it's actually very important because it really is the awareness, the consciousness of Jupiter is around it. The same thing when people tell me, where do we store memories? And they're like, well, neuroscience this and neuroscience that. I'm like, well, they haven't figured out where memories are actually stored. They're like, well, the brain lights up and the brain lights up. And I'm like, what? But where do we store actual visual perceptive memories or smells? Like when you smell a perfume, it takes you back to an entire 3D universe. What is that? To me, maybe it's not for sure, but it makes sense that there's a field of ether or water or air, whatever you want to call it, dark matter, dark energy around the human body, the physical body that we see, that may be able to store information that we can retrieve and hold, and cities and villages and continents can have their own field, and a microorganism can have its field, and a planet can have its field, and the transverse waves, the kind of patterns of the waves of these radiations crossing, is what we perceive as the points, the photonic reality, the point instance photonic reality frames. Let's see. Oh yeah, I was talking about Jupiter, right? So the shape of Jupiter, the counter-rotating bands of Jupiter. Why are they counter-rotating? Because we have this counter-rotation of cylinders of the Birkeland sheath. And how can you prove that? Go look at videos of our aurora on Earth, the green aurora, these 8K videos, and you'll see that they're counter-rotating bands of current. And Jupiter, mainstream science will tell you that the bands of Jupiter rotate at different speeds and in different directions. How can you prove that? Because if you zoom into Jupiter like we are now, you'll see those laminar flow, or shearing, edge shearing, where the bands are going against one another and they create that rub, and they create these little diactron instabilities, or little curlicues, laminar flow. And this is the reason you have movement. And you have these same patterns on Earth too, and in the human body. Let's see. Yeah. Fiber Oats, I think, yeah, let me see. Fiber Oats says the only reason we think, quote unquote, it's a three-dimensional object is because we have been told that by our curriculum. I mean, again, it's perception, right? It's, do you want to believe what you've been told? Do you want to rebel against what you've been told? What I've tried to do for me is to just allow my experience, coupled with research, define this new thing that I find interesting. So I don't want to go, think about it, like I'll give you a perfect example, Thunderbolts Project. If I were that kind of person or that kind of channel, I would be being like, well, dark matter doesn't exist, and the Big Bang never happened, and da-da-da-da-da, right? But I don't do that. I actually am willing to say, like, yes, the universe seems to be fundamentally electric, and an electric star makes sense. But also, the Big Bang probably happened in some sort of way, and dark matter is ether, which I believe is a real thing. So I'm able to discern and not just be kind of like, oh, it's an alternative theory, therefore I prescribe to all these ideas. I'm trying to say that, like, if you put little bits and pieces of all these theories together, you'll come up with a more interesting kind of painting of the larger whole. I mean, that's how I look at it. Let's see. All right, let's keep playing some music here. I think I actually gotta go pee real quick. Game of Life coming up. It's a classic night from the Call in My Mind record. Nobody else but Chew. Mary, did I say hi to you already? Sorry, like complete brain fart. If you just came in, wonderful to see you, Mary. Hope you're doing great this evening. Yeah, gosh. It's one of those things, you know, I always feel super, I don't want to say super clear, but clear enough right before the show, and then I put these headphones on, and I huddle over the computer, and I get just in this crazy space, especially talking to Fiber right here about all this stuff. But Fiber said something actually really fun. He says, or they say, may I suggest an experiment? Take a glass of water, put that glass of water between your field of view and a light on your ceiling. Now, having done that, look at the image on the screen. So I think you're referring to the fact that, is that what, no, maybe that's not what I'm thinking. What, to me, it just looks like when you're looking at Jupiter, it looks like you're looking through a porthole, and it looks like you're looking at a river bank and a river beyond that and a distant landscape. I think that's what I thought you were talking about, but maybe that's not what you're talking about at all. All right, fair play, fair play. It's Saturday night. Coming up on 10 to 8 p.m. Eastern. It's so early, and I kind of, like, again, I wish there was the moon out, but the Luna is new, I guess, tomorrow-ish? So, let's see, looking at some, yeah, you snuck in incognito, Mary, love it. Okay, yeah, so let's keep going with the tunes here. I'm losing Jupiter. I thought I could get a bit longer, but yeah, Jupes is disappearing. But I'm staying here a little bit longer. We'll talk some more. Let me know if there are any thoughts that you had on my previous ramblings. There was the point of this video I just want to reiterate, because I'm trying to stay a little bit consistent, so people skip around. They're like, what the heck was this video about? So the title of the video, Body and Biofield, reference to Eileen McCusick, reference to your actual physical body that you see, and the field around your body that you don't see, but you actually do see, because that's how we see, that's how we sense, that's our sense field. And if you look up contemporary physics or philosophy or neuroscience, and you're like, how does this work? And they basically have no real answer. So I could be completely wrong. Alan Watts could be completely wrong. The Vedas could be completely wrong. The Upanishads could be completely wrong, and so on and so forth. However, it seems like a plausible idea that we are a body with a field, and that's the whole organism. Human plus environment equals the whole organism. So almost like an atom with its nucleus and its electron shells, a planet like Jupiter and its giant magnetic fields. We just call them these things, magnetic fields, because science says so. But if you talk to them, if you talk to them, well, you could call them something more like consciousness auras or electromagnetic signatures in the field, right? Like, there's so many things we could call it. But I think most people know that this field exists and that we interact with it every day. And that's really what I think science should be based on, not the speculative idea that, well, let's try and figure out how old this thing is. Because think about it. If somebody came to you and said, this wine is 500 years old, but you're like, it tastes like shit. You know, just because something is old doesn't mean the idea is useful, right? A wine that's like 5 years old and $10 could taste really good to a palate. It's experiential, momentary experiential. This idea that, well, we know precisely the few seconds after the Big Bang, like, does that really give you anything? Does that really answer anything fundamental? And so on and so forth. The distance. Oh, this star, this exoplanet is 1 trillion light years away. Okay. So it's the same as saying, well, Japan is so far away from Florida. It's so far. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. The experience of me in Japan is going to mean way more than how far away it is. So think about how silly some of the questions, like, again, the main thing that got me here tonight was this observer effect video that I watched, or several, where it's a paradox. No, can't do it. I'm like, you're admitting that there's an observer effect basically when people do, let's say, the double slit experiment or any type of laser beam, like photonic radiation experiment or measurement. They're like, well, at some point we realize that it's inevitable that there's an observer effect on the results of these experiments. And then right after that, he's like, well, it's a paradox because, well, we keep finding this and we will never have clean experimental evidence. And I'm like, that's not a paradox. That's not like an actual problem. The problem is you won't accept that it's inevitable that humans have an experience, like have an effect on experiments. That's it. You just have to say that, okay, humans have an observer effect on quantum experiments. Now solve for that. They're like, no, it's a paradox because we want to solve it for the fact that there's no observer. That's insane. I mean, really, go listen to some of these videos about the observer effect and tell me what you think. Leave me a great comment like you do. Let's go into the songs, back into the songs for a moment. I'm going to keep going with this Call in My Mind record. I played almost all of it, but let's put The Cadet. I know y'all remember this one.
Feel what you feel, you got to know when to speak. Better believe me, this is what you seek. Love what you know, you got to learn how not to fall. Better believe it, want to tell you all. Think what you want, but I can't listen to the news. Better believe me,
Cadet. I got a couple more songs queued up, but let me chat for a second here because I just love all the comments tonight. Super cool. Because Fiber Oats mentions the Soul Trap, which is a cool genre sound. Is that a cool sounding genre title? Oh yeah, I write Soul Trap. But Soul Trap Reincarnation Remix. Soul Trap Reincarnation Matrix. But it reminds me, I think, maybe of David Icke, and the idea that, there are two ideas. Well, one is that aliens or the Anunnaki or the Cedar race of Earth, or the Galactic Federation, so to speak, or in whatever context, an alien race, an extraterrestrial race, either from underground within the Earth or outside of Earth, has entrapped Earth, basically quarantined Earth. And there's all this evidence and there are all these testimonies that line up with that theory that we are trapped here in a soul, like in a Earth prison, right? And it's been reinforced countless times in the Marvel films and many other types of Hollywood outputs where they kind of mention that, aliens look at Earth and it's like human race, a cancer on Earth. It's like terrible. People are terrible on Earth, and it's for terrible people, and we're quarantined, and they're waiting for us to grow up in order for us to join the Galactic Federation. So that's one idea. And then there's another idea. Also, tell me if you don't want me to talk about this, but I think it's pretty funny. So that's one of them. And then, and it implies that basically we're all slaves or sheeple or just waiting for the day for our masters to return on Planet X or Planet 9, the 9-foot-tall race that will come and tell us our origins, but also will use us to mine gold, right? Right? That's one of them. The other one is that the moon is a construct. And this comes from a lot of different places, right? This comes from, David, what's the guy's name? God damn it. Of course I dropped the control and lost Jupiter. Who's that? Frank Herbert and who's that other sci-fi writer? David something. Give me 1 second. Let me find Jupiter again. NPC World, right? Z-Proxy. I'll continue my train of thought here. Just give me a moment. Oh man, I really lost Jupiter, didn't I? All right, let me see. Maybe I can readjust the scope. All right, stop that. All right, you're listening to the behind the scenes as I move the scope around, and maybe we can get a better view. Philip K. Dick, that's what I'm thinking of. Philip K. Dick novels. That idea of the moon was constructed, moon matrix. We're going to be able to do this. Oh, my shoulder's going to hate me in the morning. I'm sure some of you wished I put on a song. Well, I've lost Jupiter. There you go. All right, let's find some stars and just hang out a little bit here. How's that look? So stupid. All right, come back around. I think that'll be good for now. We'll wind it down with some Starfield stuff. Hope you all finding this amusing, because all right, what was I talking about? Yeah, I was talking about the Soul Matrix moon, right? So the other idea is that Philip K. Dick and probably others, Frank Herbert, and then you also have David Icke, and you also have Who Built the Moon, and you also have the furthering of conspiracy theorists about how the moon watches us, and the moon is this kind of soul recycling factory, and they did it in the moon crashing to Earth video. There are so many different references to this, but there's one answer that I'm going to get to, but I just want to finish up that idea. So yeah, so when you die, your soul gets sucked into the moon, and then it gets judged and gets sent back to Earth because we're quarantined in human Earth prison. So those are the two theories. Fiber Oats, let me know if I'm I'm on point here in terms of those two ideas. Are there more? All right. I'm not making fun. I did a lot of research on this because it's a very fascinating concept, but here's the answer. The answer is that when you really think about human experience and you think about the body and you come back to the question like, who makes consciousness? Who makes the human body? Who makes the eyes? How do we see? Who makes life? Who takes life? What's life and death? Dreams, drugs, art, music, etc. Human existence, human experience is so defined by our own control that the problem with having an earth prison is that it's unnecessary because we're not really a slave to this system at all. We are the system. Like, you are all the structures that you hate and the structures that you love. And you are the oppression and the freedom. You're the light and the dark. And it's proven by all the different things I've said tonight. I mean, I could say it all over again, but if you think about it, it's field, it's resonance, it's real-time creation with reality, it's carrying your memory with you in the field, right? All these different ways, at least 10 of them that are not talked about in mainstream cosmology or science at all. These are things that we do, that you do, the voodoo that you do and we do, proves that you're already the Godhead. And so the Godhead, you can create an earth prison, and you can also not have an earth prison. And so it completely nullifies these theories for me, especially we're enslaved and we're a cancer on earth. Because, yeah, if you want to live in that state of mind, then live in that state of mind. But there's another state of mind that says, hey, we created all of this, and just because people eat people doesn't mean the system is not absolutely incredible and perfect already, because the whole system is built on systems devouring one another in a cyclical fashion, right? This is the nature of the universe, and to deny this nature of death and light and dark and sound and silence is to deny life itself. Now, you can do that. That's what's amazing about the system, is that you can literally hear me say all this stuff and still say, I don't believe that. So you have a ton of power. You actually have a lot of control over your thoughts. Think about it. If you were in a soul prison, or the moon could do things like that instead of just be this incredible embodiment of self, then you have the control, not the moon or not the Anunnaki, right? Anyway, that's my thoughts on those you could take it to any conspiracy, take it to Flat Earth, Hollow Earth, Illuminati, you name it, vampires. If you got rid of all the bad in the universe, there is no life. If you got rid of destruction, there's no digestion. If there's no silence, if there's no silence, there's no sound. And if there's no darkness and evil, then there's no light. You know things by contrast. And the fact that that is the case, that's the reality that we see, that proves unquestionably, at least to me, that we're not a cancer on this earth. We are this earth. And we're not imprisoned on this earth, because at any given moment you can not be. Right? If you were actually in prison, you couldn't do any of the stuff. You couldn't be in this chat room. Right? And then, of course, let's take it further with this NPC thing, because I know y'all love this non-playable character simulation theory thing. I love it too, but I also think it falls under this category where, yes, you could be a solipsist and think that you're the only living character and everybody else is a non-playable character, right? But what fun is that? The whole point of life is to loosen up and have some fun, right? So you could be with a group of people, and you can decide, because you have all the power, because you're God, you can say, oh, everybody's a non-playable character. I like this idea that I heard. I know about Grand Theft Auto. I know about simulation theory. It sounds pretty seductive for me to think that everybody else is not real, only me. Really, think about why you like that idea, and you'll see that it's a self-fulfilling kind of neurotoxin, neurotransmitter, or dopamine releaser, where you're like, I'm the only person left alive. That's exciting. So people love the idea of non-playable characters, right? But so what? Things can be real. A record, a book, a non-playable character in Oblivion or Counter-Strike, that can be as real as any interaction because it is a real interaction. So that's why it doesn't make it any less important if people are NPCs or not. Two, if we're in a simulation theory, again, I think one-to-one said it, doesn't really matter. It seems real. So let's settle there for a second. Oh, there's no connection. It's just I'm talking and there's no visuals. Maybe let me scribble, actually. I'll scribble while I talk. I want to, yeah, I'll finish up here on this NPC idea because, you know, so non-playable characters are a seductive idea, same thing as like surviving the apocalypse. When all people are gone on Earth, it just seems like one of those places that you'd want to be. But if you really thought about it, it's not fun, right? You still want all these people around you. Even if you don't interact with them, it's comforting to have the array of human life around you. So that's why NPCs don't make a lot of sense to me. Like, yes, there are NPCs, but the whole point of life is that you don't play everybody. You're not everybody, and you are everybody at its very essence, right? We're of the same stuff, but you don't live everybody else's life unless you want to. And then what else? Sim theory. Yes, it's sim theory in the sense that it's a simulation of the greater whole, fractal. But at the same time, one second, let me get this up on screen for a second. Catch me if you fall. All right, paint. All right, back to the hypotrochoid, torus, hourglass shape. And I'll show you the recursive nature. So point and cloud and hourglass shape, right? And then planet, Earth, right, with its magnetic field and its funnels, right? And what happens here, if you look at the aurora are counter-rotating. Go look at the videos. Same thing here. Black hole, white hole, black hole. That's why there's no just one black hole. Things don't collapse into a black hole. You can't really necessarily see the black hole, but you can actually see the event horizon, and that's why they think they see black holes. They're every single size in the universe because they're the mouth and butt of every funnel in the system. The system has funnels because you have filaments. Things are grown along root systems. And I'll show you again how this is true, because right here you have the human zygote, or whatever, and we are also grown along a filament, an umbilical cord filament inside an amniotic sac with our own field. And it looks like a very wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey version of this. You have the same thing with cosmic galaxies. Galaxies have the same structure. Go look at those pictures, same exact structure. And give me an apple seed, right? Core of an apple, flesh of an apple. The outline of the Birkeland filament, it's all there. Human body, neck, shoulders, right? Our neck is a hypotrochoid, right? Between our chest, hypotrochoid. Between our nose, hypotrochoid. We are a cascade of black holes, white holes along a fiber network. And then we split and they ground. The Laniakea, the local supercluster, looks like that. River tributaries look like that. Looks like a rolled tortilla, right? Anyway, humans have this human biofield. Apples have the flesh. Atoms have their shells. Planets have their fields, and on and on and on. Why is this important? Because this is how you can see the matrix. Everyone is like, I can see the matrix, I can sort of see the matrix, I can think about the matrix, but this is the matrix. It's this invisible field that we know the shape of because things are basically outlining this field in matter. Okay, so how does it really work? Matter coalesces along these filaments into Z-pinches. Z-pinches create the radiance into the field. the field returns the favor. Gravity, either like expansion, repulsion, whatever you want to say, dark energy. So electric coaxial signal, excuse me. I'm so congested still. The hay fever in Florida is just wild. So I want to say hi to Fantasy X. Hello. What did you come into? Is this a screensaver? Lols. No, this is, I lost Jupiter, and there was some really good shots of Jupiter, but now I'm scribbling and I'm wrapping up the show here. But I wanted to reiterate, like, every time I do the show, I feel like I touch on all these different topics, but I wanted to try and stay a little bit coherent and bookend it. So, title of the stream, body and biofield. You can see on the screen where I've scribbled, you know, this idea where you have a Planck unit, absolute tiniest unit in the system, with its own field, its own hypotrochoid hourglass, black hole, white hole, along a branch, planet, human. And then human, when you look at it side by side, our eyes, for example, our nose, the bridge of our nose is exactly this shape. And our eyes, the center of our eyes basically are exactly where the planets would be if you had a planet here, where the moons would be if you had a planet growing at the center between your eyes. Checking out the chat. Looks like a dance floor. Butterflies, right? Exactly, Butterfly Mary. And this again also looks like when you look at Sea of Serenity and Sea of Tranquility on the moon, this shape emerges too. Across all geology, all systems, this is the fundamental pattern. I say that decisively because there doesn't seem to be a different pattern. This pattern, the one superimposed pattern of all things, encompasses all the sacred geometry at once. If you want to know where the periodic table of elements would be, you just need to follow the spiral up one of the chimneys. This is our local chimney. This is the same as what the Big Bang shows, right? The Big Bang shows you this one point and this expansion funnel, right? But the Big Bang now they've changed to 26 billion because they've realized that it's omnidirectional. So people would ask, I guess, why do these Z pinches happen? Why do you have these nodes or these centers of consciousness? And I would say that all we know really is that the invisible dark matter, or the ether, is filamentary, my dear Watson. And when filaments cross, like wires crossing, it creates sparks, and these sparks we deem as Planck units, planets, humans, chakras, apples, etc., 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 etc. People, it's etc. People are like, etc. Excedrin. Give me some Excedrin. All right. I think it's time for me to eat. You can tell by my delirium level. I'll play us a couple of songs to take us out, but let me know what you think about all these funnels. And I will talk about it more, of course, but that's the idea of the body and the biofield. And I appreciate all y'all very much. It's great to see the OGs tonight. I'm going to leave this on screen for now. And say goodnight to everybody. What's the song that will take us out? I guess it's either Golden or Catch or Prism Dagger, so you get to choose. Catch, Golden, or Prism Dagger in the chat. Let me know. Let's see what else I can put up here. So I'll try and be back again tomorrow for a little bit more of this, but if not, I don't know, what's the thing? I still haven't done any M42, which that could be this week. So we'll see. Stay tuned. I appreciate all the great comments tonight. And yeah, everybody's super, super fun to hang with y'all, as always. All three of them till the end. That's like another 10 minutes or more, or much longer. All right, I'm just gonna play Catch because that seems to be the first one in line. I'll stick around a little bit longer. I'm gonna go have a quick smoke and I'll be back.
17, couldn't tell you I was living a dream. What could I do? For a while I played the field. How could I prove the hidden yield without the blues to feel? My heart was cool and left no residue. Catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low. The look goes high and high, as friends you used to know. Catch you when you fall, catch you when you're low. I love you, take a good look, it's a simulation. Wake up in solitary, wake up, it's imaginary. And don't you know, your life is worth more than what you have, take a good look, it's a simulation. Wake up in solitary, wake up, it's imaginary. Man, don't you know, your life is worth more than Catch me if you fall, catch me if you're low. The loot goes high and up, as fast as you can go. Oh, catch me if you fall, catch me when you're low.
Thanks for all the kind comments, everybody. Super awesome. I see Monarch Love. Much love to you, Monarch Love. Hope you're having a wonderful night. All of you. Nice comment, I guess, also from Mr. Wonder1 says, put all my music on random shuffle and leave the stream running if I can. Sounds like a cool idea, but two reasons. One, I like to wrap up the stream, and people don't like clicking on a 6-hour video, and also like it risks breaking and then losing the whole thing. And two, in small doses. Everything in small doses. It's what keeps the intrigue and mystery of this channel, right? Like, just a little bit of it. You come back for more, I hope. All right, that was a little bit of catch. I guess I'm going to do one more here because now I got really hungry all of a sudden. I'm going to do... I was going to do something y'all know, but maybe I'll do something that no one's expecting. All right. I think, no, right, there might have been a bird that flew by, but now I have, just FYI, pre-recorded Jupiter from earlier with all the moons laid out. And I'm just reading all the rest of these comments. Yeah, Fiber Oats mentions The Pod by Ween. I've definitely heard of Ween, and I might have checked him out years ago, but no, I have not heard that exact track, but I will. You're saying it sounds a little bit like my tracks. More tracks. What else? Genghis Khan says, right on, it was like hitting the lotto, catching TBS live again. Healing energies, easy days, and adventurous dreams to the TBS tribe. I couldn't have said it any better. Awesome vibes. Yeah, also, Genghis says, pineal gland in the middle of our brains, I think in reference to my earlier sketches with the funnels. Absolutely, right? Like, that's the whole idea. We actually do... We do all this magical stuff that we think we want to achieve already, right? This is the big secret. The secret here, I'm going to let it out. The secret is that you're already doing all the magic, crazy telepathy, world creation, magic shit that you think that you'd like to get to, but you're already doing it. And, you know, you don't have to believe me, but if you really consider what your role is in this life and what you actually do day to day, you'll realize that you've been in control. It's been your thing all along. It starts with a drum, says Mary Quite. I don't know yet. I'm still looking here. I'm trying to talk, and also it starts with a guitar riff. Yeah, so I'll be back again tomorrow, or the day after for sure, and we'll get some more tunes on the next stream. I think I talked a lot tonight. Please, again, I said, leave me some comments. I really do appreciate them. Sometimes I don't respond for a while, but it doesn't mean I don't very much appreciate comments. It's just like a weird quirk of mine to not do TakeBackSpace unless I'm like sitting at the desk and doing TakeBackSpace. So you know, it might be a weird thing, but anyway, still love those comments, everybody, especially that one-to-one yesterday. I really thought that was fun. Astralis says, I need these good vibes. I need courage and faith. Thank you. Sending that right back at you. And keep painting, Fiber Oats. Love it. Tammy, awesome to see you. Much love. Take care. Good luck with everything. Ellie, of course, too. Mary. I start this train off where I want to mention everybody, but I'm just going to say all of you in case I actually get to a point and I just miss everybody. I always think, oh, I said everybody and I didn't say that one person's name, and they're going to think I targeted. I picked them specifically not to say goodnight to, but I mean all of you and everybody checking this out tomorrow. Yeah. All right. Time for dinner and a little bit of dreamboat. I'll catch you on the next one. This is your captain signing off on another cosmic electric space moon stream. Ciao and bon nuit.
Care Bye.